Welcome to Shoot Me Straight. Today, it's just Dave Fields. Eddie's out of town, but we decided to go ahead and do this podcast so that we could release it before Father's Day. I have a good friend of mine, and him and 6 of his 10 kids are staying with us this week at our house. It's pretty wild. But being a father and Father's Day coming up, someone that has 10 kids, but also is just, I really respect him and have built a really good relationship with him. I think would be a great episode to have out there for especially just fatherhood and how important it is to it. So welcome, John and Sophie.
You. Shoot me straight. We were hoping for Eddie, but I guess we'll settle for Dave.
Yeah, I get that a lot.
No. His tats are pretty cool, though. You got to admit. Thanks for having us. This is. I want to say this is our first podcast ever, so we don't know what to expect, but we'll let you lead us down a path, David.
But you're used to pretty high intent, like pressure situations, because you used to tour with Mercy Me.
Well, I've toured for 20 years. So I have toured with Casting Crowns was one that I toured. That's the biggest one I ever did. That was crazy. That was a lot of people. But yeah, I think the intimate settings can be more intimidating than big crowds because you can the lights kind of drowned out. You don't see who all's out there. But in these, conversation, under the microscope situations, a little different. But I love it. Yeah, I've done it on radio before. It's kind of like radio. Right? Yeah.
What got you into music?
Well, I grew up, my parents were musical. My dad plays multiple instruments, and my parents would sing together. So I was born in 70, so I lived all through the 70s, and my parents would sing like folk music, like their favorite artist was like Peter, Paul, and Mary, the 70s folky stuff, and so they would sing together. So I just grew up around that, and so I was so used to music being in our house. My dad tried to push a lot of instruments on me, which I've learned doesn't work. You don't push it on them, and so I was a late bloomer because I was like, you tried to push it on me. I'm like, nope, I ain't doing it. And then one day I decided I really want to play an instrument. But it was like I was 15. I wish I'd have started earlier, but yeah. So I grew up around it, and just like my kids have grown up. And I feel like, music is, for my children, is even more of a first language than it is for me. Does that make sense? It's kind of like I speak a little bit of broken music or broken English. They speak it fluently, because they've just been exposed to so much more at a younger age than I was.
And what was like the first concert you played or time you played on stage? Do you remember?
Well, the first time I played on a big stage was probably, I was in a band. I started a band called According to John. And, anyway, we played, we did this tour called Acquire the Fire. And it was a big youth movement, but they did arenas. And then one of them was in a stadium. So the biggest crowd I ever did was a stadium. So literally it was filled all the way, people behind us, in front of us. It's like, who do you sing to? It's so big. But, bigger crowds are not always more fun. I like intimate crowds because I like to be able to look at people in the eyes. I like to see who I'm connecting with.
Yeah. Did you ever do like coffee shops and stuff like that?
I've done some coffee shops. I don't prefer it. I don't like being the guys, like the background guy, it's like everybody's talking, doing their thing, and you're just kind of playing whatever. I'm not that kind of singer because I don't even know a lot of covers. So if I'm singing one of my songs, I like to feel like I'm having a conversation with the audience and they're not just background music.
You write everything, pretty much everything you sing.
Yeah. I've been writing for a long time and I still feel like I'm new to it. It's one of those crafts that you can spend a lifetime just refining it and still feel like you're a beginner because writing songs is probably the hardest thing I've ever done, but it's also the most rewarding. I love it. It brings me life more than probably anything I do.
How about that?
Creative process.
Is your wife Josie, is she musical at all?
Oh yeah, yeah. She grew up the same way I did. Her dad was played in bands, and in fact, my second biggest song is a duet with Josie, my wife. It's called "The Marriage Prayer," and it's one of the top marriage wedding songs. Period. It's like one of the most sung wedding songs. And it's a duet with her, and she sounds, I think she sounds a little bit like Alison Krauss, if you remember her. Yeah, she's got a beautiful, sweet voice.
What's that?
So you get it from both sides there, Sophie.
Do you think, out of all, well, first, before I even ask that, how did you meet Josie?
She was my sister's best friend, and I was engaged when I met her.
Okay.
To this other girl. It was, my parents weren't for this relationship, so I didn't have their blessing. I was still pushing ahead like I'm going to marry this girl. And then one day I just kind of woke up and I'm like, I think they're right. I had red flags that I ignored. And so I finally listened to the red flags and I broke the engagement off. She was hanging out at our house all the time. My sister and her were best friends, like I said. And she had just graduated from high school. I was 22. She was 18. Yeah, she was 18, I swear. And so I had to bribe my sister to go out with her because she didn't want me dating her friends. And so I had to, it cost me like $120.
Is it seriously $120?
Serious.
Oh, wow.
She was going to be in I don't know if I should say this, but she was going to be in a bikini contest, my sister, and she wanted this $120 bathing suit. And I was like, I will buy that bathing suit if you will let me go out with Josie. She's like, okay.
Deal.
Best investment ever. Keeps the residual is amazing.
So did y'all get married when did y'all get married? How old?
A year later. So I was 23 and she was 19, I think. Wow. No, I was 24. We're 5 years apart. So she was 19. I was 24.
Wow.
Yeah. Went right on the road. Right out, did our honeymoon and then started doing youth camps all summer. And so I've been doing music, Christian music, for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were 24, she was 19. And then when did y'all have your first kid?
He was born almost exactly 2 years after we got married.
Wow.
And he's about to turn 26.
Jeez.
And we're about to celebrate 28 years.
Wow.
We don't look it, do we? I don't think we do. We try not to look it. We have a 4-year-old.
Yeah, that's pretty wild.
Yeah.
So right out of 2 years in, you're touring around doing youth camps and
youth camps, concerts at churches, that kind of thing.
Now you're about to have number one. Yep.
Yeah. Like I'm talking within days of leaving the hospital. We're in a 15-passenger van with my band and my newborn and my wife, and we're just hitting the road. So he hit the road from the time he was born. He's such a great musician now and producer and songwriter, but he has literally from day one.
Wow.
Josie
was cool with it. She's like, hey, let's
go.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh. Surprisingly, looking back on it.
Where she didn't get in that nesting phase where she's like, dude, we got to settle down.
Yeah.
You need a career that's going to be.
You know what? I think that, I hope we talk about this today, but I knew, the moment I knew that Josie was the right woman for me was she came to one of my concerts with my sister and my parents before we started dating, before I paid the $120. And she's sitting on the row on this pew in this church with my family, and I was so proud that this beautiful girl was at my concert, with my sister. And I introduced my family from the stage, and then I introduced my sister's friend Josie, and I was proud to introduce her for some reason. And after the concert, all my sisters, I have 3 sisters, and they were there. They weren't helping, you start tearing stuff down, rolling up cords and mics and all that stuff. Got CDs and T-shirts to fold up and put up. Josie just jumps in there and starts doing it. Just starts folding shirts, starts wrapping cords. Like nobody told her to do it. It was just instinctual. She just did it. She had a servant heart. And I knew she was for me.
Yeah.
You know, because it takes a special person, you know, to marry into a music life, a ministry life, you know, where you're traveling all the time. And so for me to marry the wrong person would have taken me in a completely different direction in life. You know, she has supported me in my calling, you know, for 28 years. And that's beautiful. That's why you got to marry the right person.
Yeah.
You just do.
Yeah, to say the music industry, unless you're really high up, probably isn't super lucrative. And then you add Christian on that, then it's really not super lucrative. And so,
well, yes, but one thing I'll say, and I've definitely watched the industry change so much. You know, when I at the height, I guess, of my career, you know, I sold, you know, several 100,000 albums. I mean, it wasn't like gold and platinum records, but hundreds of thousands of albums now is like, that's a lot.
yeah.
People don't sell records.
Yeah.
People don't even really download and buy your record anymore. They just stream it. And so I came up through those years where you could make money on music. And now that technology is, you know, developed so much, people can pay $10 or $15 and get all the music they want. 100,000 songs released a day. So it's, you know, to just even get noticed now is so hard. But with ministry, there's that faith element. We go into a church and we're trusting God, and people are blessed by what we do. They give, you know.
Yeah.
So it's a different economy.
Yeah.
You know, when you're doing ministry, you know, God provides in ways that are outside the box of the music industry.
Yeah, for sure. When y'all were touring with a baby, were y'all like going around doing stuff and having to change diapers and having to nap time?
He slept in you know, those plastic bins you would get from Home Depot, the real hard ones that we would put all of our T-shirts and stuff in these plastic tough bins, and then we would put him inside it on the T-shirts, and he would take his naps behind the product table, you know, as a baby.
Baby Jesus wrapped in merch.
Wrapped in swaddling merch.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's cool looking back on it.
When you had number 2, how long until number 2? 26 is your oldest, and then
she's 20. She's 21.
4
so
years.
4 years apart.
Okay.
We had a boy and then a girl. So we're thinking, all right, we got our boy and our girl. We're done. We thought we were.
Yeah. And then not that long after, Sophie's number 3, right?
Yep.
Yep, Sophie's number 3. She was born in Colorado. I still remember Josie telling me that she was expecting, and I didn't catch on to it, but at first, because I thought, no way. Most of our kids were surprises, most of them.
Yeah.
There's only a few who were like, let's have a baby, you know. Most of them are like, oh, we're having a baby. You were a surprise.
Yeah.
Colorado.
What's wild is you have such a range. So you have from 26 years old down to Journey's, 4 years old?
4.
So 26 to 4. I mean, you span 22 years of having kids.
Yeah. And we adopted 3, but they were older when we adopted them, 10, 12, and 14. So they kind of stair-step down, like literally stair-step down. I feel like we have a kid in every phase of life at the same time.
That's wild.
It is.
Were you still touring when you had Sophie?
I like the way you say turn.
Turn?
You still turn. You know, so my band pursued the industry for a number of years, but we finally, things kind of fell apart. We almost got a big record deal, and then it didn't happen. And so that's when I decided I wanted to get off the road. I wanted to get away from touring. And I got an opportunity to move to Colorado and plant a church and be the worship pastor for this church in Denver. And so we went out there, and I left the dream of being an artist behind, became a worship pastor. Sophie was born 2 years into that journey out there. But the songs that I wrote out there, you know, from a place of just having laid it all down and like, all right, I got to surrender this desire and this dream. The songs that came out of that season is what really led to having a career. So in a sense, the Bible talks about unless a seed goes into the ground and dies, it can't bear fruit. It's just a seed. But if it goes into the ground and it dies, then it can bring forth all kind of fruit and many more seeds. And that was one of the seasons where I had to die to my dream of being an artist. And so a lot of cool stuff came out of that. A lot of great songs came out of that, and that led to the record deal that I always dreamed of having.
Mm-hmm. In a sense, you had to die to your dream to be a father. Really?
Yeah. I mean,
you think that's a big part of fatherhood? Is just dying to?
I don't think it's giving up. Losing yourself. I mean, it is and it isn't. I mean, I think there's oftentimes think of Abraham, and he loved Isaac. They waited forever to have Isaac. Never dreamed that they would even have a biological child, and they even tried to help God out, right? Like we try to help God out. We feel like God wants to do something, and when we're like, God, I'm just going to help you out on this one because you're not moving fast enough. And then, they had a son, Ishmael, but he still had that child of promise later on. And, but then God said, take him to the mountain and sacrifice him to me. So that was the biggest test of Abraham's faith ever, so that's what we have to do a lot of times is God gives us something, a gift, a dream, whatever. And that dream becomes an idol, it becomes more important than the dream giver. Mm-hmm. And then the Lord's like, all right, now it's time to die to that. And that's hard. And sometimes he doesn't force himself, we have a free will, right? But he still is very persuasive with his children and leading us down a path to brokenness and to dying to something. And then he resurrects it. So, that's the Christian life is death and resurrection. It's always about dying to something, and then he resurrects it in the way that he wants to do it. So
that's a good word.
Amen.
I love it. So throughout all that, while you were in Colorado and you were planning that, or did you plant the church, or it was a church plant?
It's a buddy of mine who I had been part-time with back in Georgia. He moved out there to plant a church. Then he found out that my band broke up, and he's like, hey, you want to be my worship pastor? And I never wanted to be a worship pastor, and I never wanted to leave Georgia, but there we were going across the country to be a worship pastor. Mm-hmm. So, that was fun. That was really cool. Different experience,
Mm-hmm. How long did you do that for?
Almost 4 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
What led you out of it?
Well, I did a record with the church of all the songs that I'd written there. The church supported it, and then I was able somehow through my former drummer of my band was playing with Casting Crowns, and we were able to get Mark Hall to sing on one of my songs, and that him singing on that song ultimately led to me getting signed with the same label. And when I got signed with the label, they asked me to go on tour with them for a year, and I'm like, I don't want to leave my family this much and not have any immediate family in Colorado for them to lean on. So we decided ultimately to go back to Georgia, or, go back home where my parents were, her parents were, bring the kids back so they can be with their grandparents. And then I would tour out of Atlanta, instead of touring from Colorado as my hub,
Mm-hmm. So you went immediately into touring with them?
Not immediately. Within 6 months of signing a record deal, I was on tour.
What was that like to go back on the road?
Well, it was different because it was like next level. It was like I all of a sudden felt pressure, which before I didn't feel pressure. I just did what I wanted as an artist, and whoever liked it, liked it. But all of a sudden, I had this major label spending a lot of money and had a lot of high hopes for what was going to happen with that record and what was going to happen with the songs we put out. And then all of a sudden I felt like, oh no, what if I disappoint all these people? What if I can't handle this? what if my songs flop, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And some of that happened, you know. Radio played me at first, and then they didn't want to play my songs after that, because there's so many artists, so many people trying to get on the radio, and it just wasn't going the way they thought. And but then while I'm on tour Casting Crowns, I get one of my songs gets picked for a movie, and that changed my life.
Yeah, what Fireproof?
It was Fireproof, yeah. It was my song While I'm Waiting, and that's the song that I wrote, you know, after I'd sent my music, you know, to Mark Hall in Nashville, and then there was a 6-month period of waiting, and then that song came out of that, which is to this day I'd say probably my biggest song for sure.
Yeah, and that was a big movie. That was in like movie theaters.
Yes, that was the #1 independent film of that year, 2008.
Wow.
It was like that. Those films put faith-based films on the map. It paved the way for faith-based films to be as big as they are now. You know, so it was cool to be a part of that.
What's that? Dude, so I'm going to switch over
Yeah,
to
please.
Sophee.
I don't want to do all the talking.
Sophee, what's it like growing up with just in a family that is so musical or music-oriented?
Well, honestly, it's really fun. We did Christmas tours when I was around like 7, 8.
I think starting when you were around 7.
Yeah. And we would load up in a 15-passenger van and, you know, go to all these different places. It was chaotic for sure, but really fun. And, you know, having a big family where there's a different age for everyone. We all kind of have like our pal, you know. So, yeah.
Yeah. When did you first start learning an instrument? What instrument did you first start learning?
Guitar. I started playing guitar when we moved out to California. I was around 13. And I just it was actually this guitar that he's holding. I just started picking it up because I thought it sounded really pretty, and yeah.
Were you singing? Were you singing as a young kid, like a lot?
Yeah. Yes. I was definitely more reserved about it. I was a little bit shy. Just having all of these older siblings and my dad being a singer, like, it was a little intimidating to me when I was young, but they've all kind of brought me up into it and helped me to find my own voice, you know? So.
That's awesome.
And what a voice. My goodness.
Yeah.
She's got a voice, man.
I'm excited to hear it, honestly.
Speaking of no pressure.
Yeah.
Tell me about this though before, because I really want to hear y'all sing. But music being kind of the venue for a father of connecting with each child in their own specific ways, right? And you got 10 of them. I know how hard it is for 4 of going, okay, this one and their personality and who they are, and how can I really have that special relationship with each one. Has music been just such a cool venue to connect with several of them?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. As they get older, for sure. I mean, all my kids love music. Even my adopted kids love music. All my biological kids, most of them, seem to have this natural bent towards instruments and singing. And like I said earlier, it's like they were born into it, so it's like a first language. I mean, they speak it fluently. I think it's really cool that my younger kids love all the music that I grew up with, the 70s and 80s music. One of our favorite playlists on Spotify is Yacht Rock. These are all the hits that I grew up with. I mean, that defined my growing up. But my kids know these songs. They've got them memorized. And it's just really cool to see how rounded they all are. They like all kinds of music. In fact, I think my kids like music more than I like music. I like creating it, but I don't listen to it like they do. So yeah, but the older kids is really cool because, my oldest son has produced songs for me. I've written songs with him. My kids write songs together, my older ones. My 11-year-old's been playing drums for about 6 months, and he's just a natural. He sits down and just starts playing. It's like, wow, there's no telling where this could go,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you feel like as they've gotten older as a dad, has it changed a lot of guiding them, directing them, connecting with them? I know you've used music a lot with it, but has it changed it as they've gotten older?
Yes. I mean, I think for the longest time, I thought, several of them are going to do music as a career like me. Mm-hmm. But then as time has gone on, technology has changed, it's become so hard. So as a parent, to encourage your child to pursue something that is so difficult. I mean, it was so difficult for me growing up pursuing music. Mm-hmm. Music's just hard. There's so much competition. Now it's like 1,000 times harder. So then it just becomes it comes down to calling. Mm-hmm. It comes down to what has God called them to do, and what is their gifting to complement that calling. You know what I mean? They have a gift with music. So I want to encourage them in that, even if I don't know how they're going to, pay the bills doing music. If God's called them to do it, then I want to encourage them towards that, and not be like, well, you can't make money with that, like a lot of dads would probably do. But for me, I know that God's always provided for me in my calling because he called me to do it. So where he guides, he provides. So he'll do that for them. But I'm trying to help them figure out, is it a calling, and it's okay if it's not. Mm. So
that's a good word. I mean, it's part of being a father.
Yeah.
I think of one of the biggest things with it is leadership guidance,
mm-hmm.
right? Like, of course, providing, protecting, but like leadership and guidance, like how you guide them, because guide them's teach them, guide them is a whole other, in my mind, strategy or like perspective of it.
Right.
Than, telling them, doing, like.
Right. I know that. I think you and I both know that doesn't work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like when it comes to their chores, I mean, I wish I'd wisened up in this area, but they don't do their chores. I'm like, do it right now. Go do your dishes right now. And she's always like, when you tell me to do it like that, it makes me not want to do it even more. And that's true. That's why I didn't start playing the guitar until I was 15, because my dad was like pushing it on me. And I'm like, nope, I ain't doing it because you're pushing me.
Yeah.
So guiding them, there's a verse that says, raise up a child in the way they should go. When they're older, they won't depart from it. And I think that has to do with raising them according to how God has made them, gifted them, and recognizing where they're naturally, or God's, kind of that natural bent towards a certain direction, and you help shepherd them in that. Encourage them towards that, and not try to control where they go, what they do, because you want them to do it. I mean, I don't care if they do music or not, but I know they're gifted, and I know it has to be something they want to do, because if I can't make anyone desire, anything,
Yeah, for sure. So for new dads or guys that are going to become dad, like, what advice would you give someone raising 10 kids?
Well, we're probably not talking to too many out there who are going to raise 10 kids, but I mean, honestly, 4, I know your children and the stages they're at, 4 can feel like 10,
Sure.
It's hard to parent. It really is. I mean, I think one of the things that I would say is you got to give them room to fail, and then have love and grace for them when they do. You can't be so overprotective that you don't even allow them to be, or even try something that they might fail at, because you don't want them to fail. You got to give them room to fail, and then love them through it. And we learned that the hard way in some ways along the way, but we finally realized we gotta love them when they fail and give them a little bit of room for it.
Yeah. Do you see that as something nowadays, like this generation of millennials becoming dads, that of not giving them some space to fail, like over, like helicopter?
Yeah. Yeah, sure. I mean, there's a balance, right? I mean, it's not like you just say, "Hey, go try out whatever," because the world will suck them in, and the world's got a narrative for them. There's lots of lies that they're being fed right now. You have to make sure you model the truth, tell them the truth, but give them some room. Don't have a short leash, too short of a leash, but you got to have a balance too. You don't just release them to the wolves.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I like that. Like, let them fail, but within, like, boundaries that you can help teach them and shepherd them.
Right. Because there's lots of wolves wanting to take them out. You got to be on guard for those. But, yeah, I haven't mastered this by any stretch. I really haven't.
Yeah. I think some too is giving grace to yourself. I'd hear when I was counseling, a lot of times with parents and dads especially. They're like, this is what they'd say a lot. I don't want them to experience what I experienced, And so they're thinking of the things but they're not always thinking of the good stuff that they got from their parents.
Right.
And so they would be like, I don't want them to experience what I had to and what I had to go through. And I would kind of walk them through some things and be like, well, did you go to college? Yeah, I did. Did you have to work when you went to college? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And then, like, we'd go through and I'm like, would you take that back? And they're like, oh, no, it made
Right.
made me who I am and my character. And then I'm like, well, why are you trying to steal that away from them?
Yeah,
I get that you don't there's things you want to do different. But you don't give the same amount of attention to the things you want to do the same.
Right.
And the common theme always was, hey, there's guilt. When you're a parent, there's guilt. And the thing I think of is, if you don't have guilt as a parent, then you're a sociopath, honestly. Like of course you have guilt.
Right.
Or you're the perfect parent.
Right.
And so they would do things out of guilt. So I feel guilty as a dad. I feel guilty that I was over harsh in disciplining this time, or I reacted out of anger, or I should have done this, but I didn't, even though I knew, of course, all the time that happened. And so I feel guilty. So therefore I compensate. Yeah, sure. Like, let me just buy you stuff, or let me, supplicate out of my guilt.
Yes.
Right? And instead of giving yourself some grace and going, of course you have guilt. It's a good thing you have guilt. If you're a parent that doesn't have guilt, that's what scares me.
Yeah.
But if you're a parent that has guilt, that's a good thing. That means you have values.
Right.
If you didn't have guilt, you wouldn't have values.
Like, I'm missing the mark, and I need grace.
Yeah.
And I need help.
Yeah.
Parenting's bigger than us, and I know that I have to lean heavily on the Lord to parent my children. He knows how to father way better than I do, and so and another thing I would say is, you got to forgive, teach your children to forgive quickly and repent quickly. It's not that we're not gonna mess up. We are gonna mess up, but when you learn how to repent quickly, get up and turn away from that error, that wrong direction you were heading down, and head back in the right direction, and then keep short accounts, so that you're a person who can forgive quickly your siblings, forgive your parents quickly. We've always admitted quickly when we're wrong, because as parents, our kids know that we make mistakes, and we own it. And that they respect that, and so those are the things that we've seen manifest in our kids, is that they do screw up, but they've learned this pattern of, all right, I got to repent of it. I got to turn around, you know, and just do it. And so that's another thing that I think has been very valuable in our home.
Yeah. All right, last question, then I'm going to have y'all sing.
Okay.
Hey, how important do you think fatherhood, just in general, how important is fatherhood and fathers?
Oh, it's one of the most important things in this life, you know, fatherhood. Not to diminish motherhood at all, but I mean, we're seeing the fruit of broken homes, and we're seeing the, you know, just kids who are just aimless, you know, because they don't have a father who's present or cares. I mean, I don't know, Sophie, what do you think? How important it is to have your dad in your life? Not to put you on the spot.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just thinking when you were talking about how we have to be quick to forgive, I was just thinking about how you have represented that so well. And every time, I mean, you've done something where I was hurt by it, not short after you are coming to me and you are repenting and you're showing love. And yeah, it's so important. I need my dad, you know?
Whoa, I'm gonna cry.
I know.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's emotional. But yeah, I mean, even just like in the season I'm in right now, I'm super just trying to figure things out. Like, I don't really know anything, but through all of it, I've been able to relate with my dad, and he's been able to share similar experiences he's had, and, you know, which doors are good and which ones are, you know, avoid. And yeah, it's been super great.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, we can wrap it up right here then.
That's awesome to hear. You're 18. You haven't figured it all out yet? Oh, my gosh.
I know. I'm behind.
She's an old soul. I will say that. She
can
doesn't
see
seem
that.
18, does she?
Mm-mm. So, did y'all wrote a song together? Is that correct? Is that the one?
I didn't write it.
I wrote it, but we this is our first duet that we did together 2 years ago, and it's appropriate because it's Father's Day. It's called "What My Father Does," and really, it's a kind of a parallel of God the Father and then earthly Father. So we're gonna try to do it.
Yeah. All right. Do you need to?
Oh yeah,
Adjust?
I do. When I bow in shame, 'cause I really mess things up, He lifts my head by my chin. It's what my Father does.
When I made it clear I'll never be good enough, He tells me I'm still His, 'cause it's what my Father does. He runs to me, arms open wide. He protects me, He provides more than I could dream, more than enough. He holds me close and lets me know that I belong. He wants me so. He shows me unfailing, faithful love. It's what my Father does. It's what my Father does. When I feel far from home, I know the best
best is yet to come.
He waits to welcome me, 'cause it's what my Father does.
Oh, he runs to me, arms open wide. He protects me, he provides more than I could dream, more than enough, more than enough. He holds me close and lets me know that I belong. He wants me so. He shows me unfailing, faithful love. It's what my Father does. It's what my Father does. He knows my heart like no one else. Answers every cry for help. He calls out the best in me. Believes and won't give up. Won't give up on me. He runs to me, arms open wide. He protects me, he provides more than I could dream, more than enough, more than enough. He holds me close and lets me know that I belong. He wants me so. He shows me unfailing, faithful love. It's what my Father does. It's what my Father does. It's what my Father does. Oh, it's what my Father does.
Oh my gosh. Incredible.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
And you wrote that yourself?
Yeah, well, I wrote it with another writer who I love.
Wow.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, it was. I wanted to write a song that I could do with a duet with one of my kids, and so fatherhood was the subject, and really the image I had when I first started writing the song was the prodigal son and the father running to him, with his arms open wide, even though the prodigal thought that he had screwed everything up and was ashamed to come home and thought, I'll just be a servant. But nope. That's what my Father does. He runs to me, puts a robe on me, puts a ring on me, celebrates when the prodigal returns.
Dude, incredible. How cool to also have that with your daughter and sing it with her.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's super cool. And, so we did a video. We can check it out on YouTube, but you can save it on Spotify, put it in your playlist, What My Father Does.
And Apple Music.
And Apple Music, Amazon, all the things.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Dude, and your voice, incredible.
Thank you.
She's good.
Oh my
I could
gosh.
listen to her all day.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Well, can we hear another song
Oh, absolutely.
between you two? What do you have?
I have a guitar I'm going to tune real quick here. This is real life conversation. Real life. So we're about to release a new song. So it's been 2 years since we've released that one.
Okay.
We just recorded a song together called Yeshua, the name. Some people don't know this. A lot of people do know this. But Jesus, his real Hebrew name is Yeshua. But Jesus is the translated version of his name. But I just love the sound of his name, Yeshua. I have always wanted to write a song that really emphasized his name and worship. Whereas I grew up in evangelical churches and never heard him called Yeshua till I met some Jewish believers that became friends and kind of introduced me into more the Hebraic roots of my faith, And so this is a song I recently wrote, and we just finished recording. We're going to release it really soon, so Hope we can do this well. Here we go.
Over the morning and over the evening, over the mountain and over the valley, over the demons and armies of angels, over and over, say the name, Yeshua. Name above every name, Yeshua. Worthy of all of our praise, say the name, Yeshua, say the name. Over the broken, the battered, the wounded,
say the name,
into the darkness,
say the name,
freedom for captive,
say the name,
over addictions, diseases, afflictions, over and over, say the name, Yeshua. Name above every name, Yeshua. Worthy of all of our praise, say the name, Yeshua, say the name, yeah.
Lord, you are the flame, you're the fire. Take me up with you, my desire. Over everything, you are higher. You shall reign, you shall reign. Lord, you are the flame, you're the fire. Take me up with you, my desire. Over everything, you are higher. You shall reign, you shall reign. Yeshua. Name above every name, Yeshua. Worthy of all of our praise.
Wow.
We didn't blow your mics up.
Dude. Me and Tripper just looking at each other. Awesome. Incredible.
Thank you. So that song is going to be dropping soon. Sometime in, I think it's going to end sometime in July. We're going to announce the date, but I'm really excited to kind of share this podcast with, just my fans so they can see a little deeper into our life and mine and Sophie's relationship and how it connects to these songs, just the realness behind it.
Yeah. I mean, when I think about you, John, I think about just authentic, like who you present to the world is like who you are, right? And seeing you like live with us for for a week and at times, and just seeing morning to the afternoon to the midday, like who you are is like how you are right now is who you are at 8 a.m. and maybe a little bit tired more in the mornings with my kids. But
you haven't seen me in the car traveling with these kids, so there's that. But thank you, I appreciate that. And man, you're a rare guy that you would take in a family like mine. Let us come stay in your house. I mean, I don't know anybody that would do that. So the fact when you guys first invited us the first time, I was like, they're different. There's something special about Dave and Francesca. If they would have my family to stay in their home so easily, just so nonchalant about it.
Oh, we love it.
I know, but that's it. I just want you to know it's rare, and we appreciate it.
Yeah, we as we've talked about, we're like, hey, we're excited.
Yeah,
and especially this weekend. What's crazy is we didn't plan this.
No,
we didn't say, hey, I'm gonna bring you down. We're gonna do a podcast on fatherhood right before Father's, like literally yesterday morning.
Yeah.
For people that don't know, that yesterday morning we're on the back porch and you go, hey, when's Father's Day? Is it this Sunday?
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, it is. And they're like, well, we should do a podcast before, you guys leave so that we release it for Father's Day.
Right.
And that really coincides with the reason me and Eddie even started the podcast. We're excited about people and their stories.
Yes.
And and then putting it out there and letting God use with it, just being a platform that he used with it, however he's going to use it to affect people's lives, know. And there's such incredible people out there. And what I love is just completely different backgrounds. I mean, we'll go from having hardcore Navy SEAL, tons of deployments to, an NFL player to singer-songwriter. It's like what it is to be a man, what it is to be, a good father. Like, it looks different in the sense of, what they do, their occupation. But there's some consistencies along with it, and I think one of the biggest consistencies you put forth is this like authentic faith in God. Just love. I think that's one thing that isn't, when I think about fatherhood, probably one of the biggest things about fatherhood is love.
Yeah.
I think of truly loving. Yes, it's guiding and teaching and modeling and, shepherding. All those things are true, but like it's done in a spirit of love. And I can't really, really be a good father unless I'm connected with the Father, who is love.
Amen to that. Yeah, I mean, it's I think we get our validity, that we get that affirmation from our Father that no one else can impart in the same way. Like we need that acceptance, that love, that affirmation that the Father says, I see you, I see who you are, and I love you, and I bless you to be, who God's made you, and the giftings. I'm going to support you in your giftings and what God's called you to do, and that's, I think, our greatest achievement in this life. And I don't look at like songs, because not that I had a string of hit songs. I had a few songs that were well known. But I don't even think about that when I think about my achievements in this life anymore, because it's really my children are my greatest achievement. And, we have 2 kids that are married now. And so what our kids are saying, the older kids are saying back to us now is I want what you and mom have. And there's just not a bit better compliment that a man and a wife could receive from their children. I want what you have. And that's really supposed to be our faith as well, you know. They've seen our faith, as you said, authentic, and I appreciate you saying that. It's real, it's authentic, it's flawed. There's brokenness. But they also see us trusting the Lord for everything, and it's just awesome.
Yeah.
So
Go
be
for
so
it.
quiet over there. Pull things. Hey, Dave, you know how to. You're trained to pull things out of this girl. She's a deep well.
Dude, I think her what she said earlier, I mean, it makes me feel emotional to think of one of my 3 daughters saying that at some point, you know, especially going, hey, you're kind of my rock through this time of being that guiding, stable man for your daughter.
Yeah.
I mean, like, how incredible is that?
You will. I have no doubt that you
Yeah.
and Fran both, because you're that kind of parents. You it's just obvious, you know.
Thank you. One thing I was going to mention before we wrap up is this, and you don't even know this, but yesterday we're at the beach, and I don't know if one of your boys, I think he was struggling with something or whatever, but I hear you lean over to him and you go, hey, I'm proud of you, son, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just that realizing with your kids, hey, they need to hear that encouragement.
Right.
Yes, they need to be taught and disciplined and those things too, but they also, from a dad especially, I think, they need that, I'm proud of you, I'm encouraged, you know, that encouragement from the dad.
Yes. My dad's always done that for me. He's always told me he's proud of me. I talk to my dad almost every day, and I'm so thankful, and I don't take that for granted, but I'll often will just tell one of my kids randomly, I'm proud of you, and their response almost, 99 times out of 100 is like, why? Like, what did I do? Why are you proud of me? Like, that was random. What they want me to tell them something that they did that is the reason why I'm proud of them. And I said, no, you need to understand, I'm just proud of you because you are mine. You are my son. You are my daughter. I'm not proud of you for what you can do, with your talent. Yes, I will be proud of that. But that doesn't define you. You are, no matter what you do, you're my son. You're my daughter. I'm proud of you for who you are. And that's what we need to hear from the Lord. He loves us no matter what. And then we do things from that place of I'm loved and I am safe and I am, it's just, I feel compelled by this love, The love of Christ compels us. I mean, that's where that comes from. It compels you to do things because you feel this freedom to do things. You want to do things because you're safe, you're loved unconditionally, and it's not based on what you're going to do or not do. So
that's a good word. All
yeah.
right. I'm going to wrap it up there before we get going. I mean, that's good.
Yeah. Maybe I could, sing a chorus of, I just wrote a brand new song that I think is, it's a declaration from Isaiah, when Isaiah 61 talks about the Spirit of the Lord is upon me. He's anointed me to bring good news to the poor. He's, to declare release from prison, the captives, beauty for ashes, all these things and I think that the Lord, in this time that we're in, that young people don't know who they are. They don't have the sense of purpose, and they're getting on board with these agendas and these things, these causes that they think are noble because they want to belong, they want to feel like they have a purpose. And that's the heart cry I think, of every child, am I loved? Am I safe? Do I matter? Do I have a purpose here? And the truth is, they do. And I want to see my kids step into that. But I won't do the whole song, but just a little bit. Move these mics around here. Here's my brokenness, here's my shame. You promised you would never turn me away. So I'm coming in boldness, I'm coming for the flame, the fire of your holiness. Burn the rest away. The Spirit of the Lord is on me. The Spirit of the Lord is here. The Spirit of the Lord will change me over and over. The Spirit of the Lord anoints me. The Spirit's gonna cast out fear. The Spirit of the Lord will raise me over and over. Your holiness, burn the rest away. Oh, Spirit of the Lord is on me. The Spirit of the Lord is here. The Spirit of the Lord will change me over and over. The Spirit of the Lord anoint me. The Spirit's gonna cast out fear. The Spirit of the Lord will raise me over and over, over and over. Lead me to the brokenhearted. Lead me to the brokenhearted.
Awesome.
I'm excited about that song. I just feel like
really
it's
that.
it's going to be a declaration, you know. I believe in what, you know, your words have power, the Bible says. But when you're using his words and you're declaring them with your voice out loud, there's so much power in that.
Yeah.
You know, just to declare that the Spirit of the Lord's anointed me to do these things. I don't have to do it alone. He's given me power to help people.
That's awesome.
Bring people out of captivity, you know, and addictions and whatever. And I think it's gonna be good, brand new.
Yeah. Are you gonna throw Sophee on it?
Oh, I'm gonna use Sophee, Hadley, and Bailey on this one.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I've done a duet with each one of them separately, and now we're gonna do this one together.
Quadlet?
It's a quaduet. It's a quaduet.
That's awesome.
Well, man, thank you. This is our first podcast. I think it went well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is your first podcast ever.
Ever.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. Man, I look forward. Where can people find you? Where should I send them? Instagram and to.
Yeah, so you can follow me on @JohnWallerOfficial on Instagram or Facebook /John Waller. Sophee, what are you on Instagram?
I am Sophee.Waller, but Sophee is spelled Sophee. Not
Yeah, all
IE.
of our kids has EEs. And then Spotify, you know, just John Waller, Apple Music, Google Play, all of those. Just type in John Waller and, you know, save What My Father Does. Happy Father's Day, by the way.
Yeah.
Early Father's Day. And then look out for Yeshua the Name coming out in July.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you
All right.
guys so much.
Thank you.
All right, out.